Yes, we can, sure we can change the world.
So welcome once again to the Ecosoc News Forum, particularly to this side event. Thank you for joining our session, which focus on youth-led solution to achieve 2030 agenda for sustainable developmental goals, particularly for the activities we have been implementing in Congo and Ethiopia. We are on the final day of the Ecosoc Youth Forum. I'm sure like some of you are already attending the Ecosoc Youth Forum, and some of you are probably joining online. I hope everyone had the opportunity to meet different delegates, policymakers, and the international organizations. And I hope you had the opportunity to meet youth organizations, youth leaders like yourself on the Ecosoc Youth Forum. So this program is particularly organized by two Mandela Washington Fellows we made in 2015 during the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program with the Mormi Initiative for Women Leadership Program. It's a non-profit organization that empowers young women and girls to take leadership role in their organization. And particularly this session is organized with the purpose of sharing innovative solutions that has been implemented by young people, and particularly to share the challenge of young people to end poverty and the solution that has been implemented by young people to end poverty and hunger, particularly to achieve 2030 agenda for sustainable developmental goals in Congo and Ethiopia. So I will give the floor for my colleague to introduce himself. Then we will proceed with the program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this event. My name is Avertin Zoe. I'm from Republic of Congo, and I'm currently living in Canada. I am the president of Espaço Poco, a Congolese civil society NGO that supports school education for indigenous children. I'm happy to be here with you. I promise that we will have a great time together with some very interesting topic. So let Mata introduce himself to you too.
Thank you for the great introduction, particularly of the initiatives you lead in the Republic of Congo. My name is Marta Zahai Soaso. I'm particularly working on youth engagement, youth employment, and digital economy activities in Ethiopia. I'm part of the Mormi Initiative program, the organization I presented earlier. I was part of the fellowship program in 2014, and also I'm a founder of Good to Have Initiative, and also Mobile for Students Reproductive Health Program. The program I initiated following the youth champion I received from, will you kindly share that? I initiated following the Youth Champion Award I received from the David and Lucy Packard Foundation, and also from Rise Up. I'm a youth advocate in Ethiopia. I am also part of the Mandela Washington for Ethiopia. Particularly, I was part of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program in 2015 with Averti as selected as an emerging young leader from Africa. So we'll be specifically presenting about the youth-led solutions we implemented in Ethiopia, and Averti will specifically run the program.
Thank you for this presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to outline the plan for our meeting. So our meeting will be organized in two parts. The first will consist of two presentations, Marta's and mine. Our colleague from Namibia, Alzan, was unable to join us. So in the second part, we will take questions. During the presentation, please turn off your microphone and write down your question for the end of the presentation. If we all are agree with that, I'll give the floor to Marta, who will make a presentation under the theme Youth-Driven Employment Solution, Challenge and Opportunity for Young People to Secure Employment and the Role of Youth Employment to Eradicate Poverty and Hunger to Achieve the 2030 Agenda. Marta.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Our idea was to have this presentation in person in New York, but it didn't happen. And I'm glad we managed to conduct this activity online. With the help of the technology, we are able to conduct this session online. So I would like to say welcome once again for individuals that joined late. My name is Marta Zahar, particularly working on youth employment issues in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is one of the fastest developing countries globally and also one of the fastest developing countries in the east part of Africa. We managed to maintain 10% average economic growth for the past 15 years. Although the COVID pandemic affected the country's economy significantly, we maintained a 10% average economic growth for the past 15 years. It's one of the countries which is predominantly agrarian economy with a population of 126 million. The country's main economic income is particularly the agrarian economy, and particularly 80% of the population in Ethiopia reside in rural parts of Ethiopia. Like the rest of the continent, Africa, young people constitute significant portion of the Ethiopia population. 70% of the young people are below the age of 35, which is particularly significant portion of the population. And this is an opportunity for the country to bring sustainable development for the country and also to meet sustainable development, particularly SDG 8. However, this has to be managed by creating adequate, stable job opportunities for young people and also decent employment opportunities for young people. In general, demographic dividend, it's the share of the working age population, which is larger than the non-working population. This is an opportunity for Ethiopia to bring sustainable development, but at the same time, employment opportunities has to be created, decent employment opportunities has to be created to address the deployment challenge and also to use the demographic dividend in Ethiopia. Will you kindly mute yourself? Thank you. Also, young people constitute significant portion of the population, which I mentioned in my presentation. The challenge of young people is still unaddressed. Particularly, young people are still facing access to education. There is a challenge of access to education. Young people are still facing the challenge of access to health. And also, most importantly, the most important problem, which is highly linked to the other challenges in the country's economic inclusion of young people, particularly access to decent employment opportunities. Youth unemployment is a key and critical challenge, particularly in Ethiopia. According to the ILO report, more than 2 million youth enter to the labor market every year. So that requires actually effort from the government, from the private sector and other sectors to create decent employment opportunity for young people, for new entrants to the labor market. And particularly, this is leading to a projected raise to the labor force, where we are expecting 30% increase between 2019 and 30, which is an additional burden to the economy. But by managing youth employment properly, the youth economic demographic dividend can be used as an opportunity, particularly to address the challenges in Ethiopia. We have an youth unemployment challenge, particularly young people between the age of 15 up to 29. We have 7.7 unemployment challenge. This is a general youth unemployment figure in Ethiopia. But when we see the urban-rural comparison, there is high urban unemployment challenge in Ethiopia. And people with disabilities are also disadvantaged in terms of youth employment. In general, unemployment is specifically the share of the labor force that are looking for a job but without a job. So young people in Ethiopia, especially in urban setting, 17% of them are unemployed. And like the rest of Africa countries, particularly young people cannot afford to be without a job. So they join work, but that doesn't mean it's a decent employment opportunity, and most of them are actually underemployed. The challenge of young people are interrelated, especially youth unemployment is one of the predominant problem in Ethiopia. And this is particularly related to the low literacy level we have in Ethiopia. We have 25%, 52% adult literacy rates in Ethiopia. And the underdeveloped infrastructure, which is related to road development, electricity, internet access is one of the key challenge. That is limiting, creating decent employment opportunity in wage employment and also self-employment. If we particularly see internet, especially coverage, digital economy is currently creating an opportunity to create decent employment opportunities for young people. However, when we see the infrastructure, the internet penetration in Ethiopia, it's only 16% of the population that have internet access, which is one of the key challenges in terms of creating decent employment opportunities for young people, especially in the emerging economies like digital economy. In general, the youth unemployment challenge has been exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. March 2020, the COVID pandemic brought unprecedented social, economic, and health impact, particularly for Ethiopia and also in the globe. And many young people lost their job because of the COVID pandemic, particularly in Ethiopia. And 18.6 young people reported they lost their job because of the COVID pandemic. And when we see actually women and men proportion in terms of the pandemic impact, unlike other Africa countries, to your surprise, more men was affected, more men lost their job during the COVID pandemic compared to women, their women counterparts. But however, when we see particularly the COVID recovery and also regaining their job back, men, particularly 85% of young people, regained their job back, while only 66% of young people regained their job back. So also immediately young women did not lose their job significantly as men. The impact of COVID affected women compared to their male counterparts. Young people with disabilities were significantly affected during the COVID pandemic, and particularly it was very difficult for young people with disability to regain their job back after the COVID crisis. We have youth unemployment challenge because of the skills mismatch we have between the demand and supply in the market. The demand is not meeting the supply, and particularly we have Tibetan institutions, educational institutions, higher learning institutions that are specifically skilling young people, upskilling young people, but still the skill set of individuals is not meeting the required demand by employers. And there is also a lack of job matching opportunities in Ethiopia, especially most of the things in terms of job matching are conducted manually, and these job matching platforms are not accessible, especially in rural parts of Ethiopia. This is one of the factors why we have youth unemployment challenge in general in Ethiopia. To create self-employment opportunity, particularly for young people, for aspiring entrepreneurs and also entrepreneurs, there is a limited access to finance, and financial literacy is limited, and there is limited entrepreneurship development support, comprehensive entrepreneurship development support challenge in Ethiopia. Although we have the entrepreneurship development institutes, other institutions, government institutions and private institutions that are providing support, we are not able to meet the required need of young entrepreneurs to provide comprehensive support, which is limiting young people to create self-employment opportunity, and one of the reasons why we have a predominant challenge on youth employment. Policy is important, especially comprehensive policies are important to address youth employment challenge. We have the National Youth Policy, and also we have the National Development Framework, which prioritizes particularly youth unemployment as a key challenge that should be tackled as one of the government development objective. However, the developed policies are missing implementation, which means the policies are there, but implementation is missing. And at the same time, the policies we developed are not inclusive for economically disadvantaged segments of the population, particularly for people with disability, for forcibly displaced people, and also for the traditionally underrepresented community members. One of the key challenges, especially that's contributing toward this youth unemployment, is lack of soft skill, lack of employability skill, job preparedness, and at the same time, work ethics, which is one of the required skills, especially in the industry sector, in the formal sector, in the service sector. The soft skills are the required skills to join the workforce and at the same time to stay in the job. Usually solutions are important. So to address the last challenge I mentioned, which is related to lack of soft skill, one of the initiatives that was initiated in Ethiopia is a Good to Have initiative. I specifically initiated this program as a means to create decent employment opportunity for young people by enhancing their soft skill and skill completion, and by enhancing their employability skills. Gojo in Ethiopian language in Amharic means a home. Home is like where we start everything. Home is like where we have the foundation of everything. So this Gojo Have initiative is providing soft skills for young people, specifically for high school students, to support their skills completion and to enhance their employability skills in general. Research particularly shows the more young people complete their education, the more likely they get better paying jobs. And similar also research shows soft skill specifically contributes to getting a job and also particularly staying in the job. So this particular intervention, the youth-led solution, which we initiated and implemented in Ethiopia, specifically contributes towards enhancing the soft skill of young people from the early age so that it can enhance their employability at a later stage. The center serves as a training center, a network, a center that provides network opportunity for young people. We have a monthly session, which is specifically managed by the school. The activities handed over to the school, and the school specifically manages its activities. We have the Gojo Walk initiative. Gojo means house in Amharic language in Ethiopia, and walk means discussion. So the Gojo Walk discussion specifically facilitates discussion among young people to discuss about employment, to discuss about different soft skill issues, and also activities that will enhance goal setting of young individuals. We use the center as a center to facilitate training opportunities, and the school is also using the center as a training center to facilitate entrepreneurship training for young people. To address the challenge I mentioned, the youth unemployment challenge, different government institutions, developmental organizations, and agencies are putting their effort to address the youth unemployment challenge in Ethiopia. Although the country registered economic growth, the youth unemployment challenge are left unaddressed because of the lack of engagement of young people, and also particularly youth-driven employment solutions are missing. So the proposal, we have to address this youth employment challenges, specifically to have youth-driven employment solution, to engage young people in program policy development process, program development process implementation, and at the same time implementation of activities and monitoring and evaluation of policy outcomes. So the youth-driven employment solutions particularly is to design and implement comprehensive and inclusive policies that are matched with financial resources. We implemented the national youth policy, which was developed in 2004. But the missing element in that policy was financial resources. Particularly, the policies should be complemented and supported with financial resources so that we can address the youth unemployment challenge in Ethiopia. And also, the youth unemployment challenge is particularly different from one area to the other area. Youth is not a homogeneous group, and particularly the challenge of young people in terms of unemployment are affected by different social and economic challenges. So addressing the young people challenge requires designing and implementing programs that are holistic, that will address the youth unemployment challenge from different perspectives. For example, the youth entrepreneurship challenge, lack of financial access is not the only challenge, but supports, mentorship, coaching should be also included to support and to address the youth unemployment challenge, especially from entrepreneurship perspective. We need programs, policies that specifically target rural youth. On the previous slide, we have specifically mentioned 80% of the young people are living in rural part of Ethiopia. So this requires actually addressing the challenge of young people, and more attention is actually needed for rural youth. So we need to implement, design and implement policies that address the challenge of young people in rural part of Ethiopia by addressing access to land challenge. There is poor infrastructure, particularly in rural part of Ethiopia. So we need policies and programs that address those challenges, and financial support for young people that reside in rural part of Ethiopia. We have, in Ethiopia, we have policies actually, the rural job opportunity creation strategy, which was developed in 2017 as one of the policy solutions proposed by the government, but at the same time, the implementation is a challenge, and most of the resources are actually concentrated in urban part of Ethiopia. The youth employment intervention highly concentrates in urban part of Ethiopia, which left the challenge of young people in rural part of Ethiopia unaddressed. Skilling, reskilling is important, especially skilling young people with the required demanded skills in the market is important, and also facilitating job matching platforms is important to address the youth unemployment challenge in Ethiopia. Particularly, we have youth centers in every corner of Ethiopia. So one of the youth-driven employment solution is to convert this youth center public employment centers to use employment center to employment center, so that we can address the youth unemployment challenge in Ethiopia, and also in general the unemployment challenge we have in Ethiopia. The Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy creates a favorable condition to address youth unemployment challenge in Ethiopia. Young people are very close to technology, and this Digital Ethiopia strategy specifically creates an opportunity for young people to benefit from digital-enabled livelihood opportunities. So one of the proposed solutions, especially in terms of Digital Ethiopia 2025 implementation, is to include young people in this program, in the Digital Ethiopia strategy implementation, and also to create employment opportunities for young people as digital economy creates a favorable condition to create digitally enabled livelihood opportunities for young people. And institutional capacity building is important, especially on youth unemployment challenge and to create youth employment, decent employment opportunities for young people particularly. This is particularly institutional support for government organizations that are at national level, regional level, and also at Warada level. Warada is the lowest administrative unit in Ethiopia, to build the capacity of the government partners and also develop the developmental partners in general. This is particularly important to bring alignment between the policy and the implementation. Sometimes the activities that are implemented at grassroots level might not be aligned with the government policy and priority. So to bring that alignment, to bring and to strengthen coordination between different organizations, and at the same time to avoid duplication of effort between the government partners and also developmental partners on youth employment. Institutional capacity development is important, and building the capacity of young people themselves is important, so that we can address the youth unemployment challenge in Ethiopia. Monitoring and evaluation is important, and young people should be involved in monitoring and evaluating the programs and also policy outcomes in general in Ethiopia. We should have specifically measurable targets to address the youth unemployment challenge in general in Ethiopia. And young people should be involved in program planning, implementation, and also monitoring and evaluation. So the young people challenge has not been addressed in Ethiopia because the policies we developed are not youth-driven employment solution, where young people should be providing specifically input in terms of policy development, implementation of the program, and also monitoring and evaluation. With this presentation, the suggestion is not actually young people were not completely involved in the policy development process, but they should be meaningfully involved in the policy development process, so that they can also monitor the policy outcomes of youth employment. The last slide is specifically how youth unemployment is highly linked to poverty. The UNICEF report particularly shows there are 37 million children under poverty, which lacks 3 or more basic needs, particularly in Ethiopia. And at the same time, the more a child is specifically under poverty, the more they will be in a similar cycle of poverty at adult age and also at particularly youth age. So creating youth decent employment opportunities is important to break the cycle of poverty and to lift young people out of poverty. And the more we invest in employment, especially decent employment opportunities for young people, the more we break the cycle of poverty and the more we lift young people out of poverty. So let us invest to create decent employment opportunities to break the cycle of poverty in Ethiopia. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you to my subject, the role of education for the inclusion of indigenous population and to eradicate poverty and anger in the Republic of Congo, the experience of a Congolese civil society NGO to support the education of children in the Republic of Congo. So I'd like to start with a question. We are talking here about achieving development goals by 2030. These development goals are like ending poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, etc. My question is, how the world's leaders know that we only have 6 years left to achieve this goal? It looks like people think that 2040 is so far, so they have time to do things, but no. I come from the Republic of Congo, and as an African, I can say that there are still things to be done, and we need to speed things up if we want to reach the goal by 2030. Know that I'm like Nelson Mandela, who believe that all development goals cannot be achieved without education. To create job, people need to be educated. To end hunger, people must be educated. So we need to start by the education if we want to achieve this goal. Unfortunately, in Africa, when we often talk about development, we put indigenous people to one side. That's why I have decided to talk to you today about what I'm doing in the Republic of Congo with my team to give indigenous children access to education. So Espaço Poco is my organization that I create to do so. For people who don't know where is the Congo is the red point in the African map here. And we are working in this black point, show the place we are working. The goal is to work for every community in the country, but we have not a lot of money now, so we are going slowly. Who are the indigenous people? I don't know if everyone know. They call them Pygmy indigenous people or or forest people, refer to the first inhabitant of Central Africa. This is people who are living in the forest, very poor, and live only by hunting, fishing, and cultivating. We start our program in 2012. We found a suffering people that didn't see the importance of education. The few children who went to school dropped out very quickly. We found entire community where no child had been to high school since the creation of the world. Can you imagine that? What are the challenges facing indigenous children? Oh my God, what's up? So we have many challenges for indigenous people. The first is lack of role models in the community. The second is they have not money to pay for education of their children. And the children who can accept to go to school are discriminated in school. They don't have a lot of food to eat, so children are used to the forest to look for food. They have not access to hospitals because to go to the hospitals, we need money in Congo. So they have not money. Sometimes they use everything they can have in the forest to solve the health problem. And if they finished, for example, with the secondary school, they need to go to the big city to continue with high school and university. And everyone know that in the big city today, you you must have money to buy food, to rent house, and to do something else. But indigenous people don't have money for that. Another problem is the parental illiteracy. Uh, in our families, when children come back to school and if he have some exercise to do at home, he can ask to his mom, to her mom or his dad. But for indigenous people, mom can't read, dad can't read, so you need to do it by yourself. That's why education, going to school is not easy for them. Another problem is the distance between the junior high school and the village. You will see in the map the distance some children have to work to go to school. So the question is what we are doing in this community. The first thing we are doing is that we conduct the awareness campaign on the importance of school education. So we go in many villages and talk about the importance of school. And after talking, if children accept to go to school, we have to pay for school supplies and taking care of all the necessary expenses for them. To end discrimination in schools, we distribute clothes because in this population, you can have children who are only one shot. So he go to the forest with the same shot, he play football with the same shot, and he go to school in the same shot with the same shot. That's why they are discriminated in the classroom, for example. So we need to distribute clothes to them so they can change it and go to school. We have another program to distribute food to parents who send their children to school. It is the thing we did at the beginning to encourage parents to send children to school. When they know that at the end of the month, I will get food, so they can accept that children go to school. At the beginning, we start giving only to the family who are children to school, but now everyone have children to school, so we are obliged to distribute to everyone in the community. We monitoring to the health and indigenous student and deworming operation. 3 years ago, we lose a young boy because of that. That's why we decide to pay medication because he was sick. He was 6 years old. He go to school in the morning and still have I don't know if you can call it a belly pain. So when he go to home and they have not medication, so the young boy died. And we decided to create this program every 6 months. We go to the community and distribute medication to do the deworming operations. We also make the civil registration because in this community, we are many children who have not the civil statute document. So to go to school, we need that document. That's why we work every day to go to talk with the administration and sometimes we are obliged to choose the name with the family, because in Congo you must have the first name and the second name. But in indigenous population, sometimes they have only one name. So we need to discuss with the parents and try to found a nickname, for example. When they finished with the secondary school, they go to the big city. That's why we take care of them in the high school, and by providing food, housing, personal care, everything, so they can concentrate on school. In December 2020, we received the donation of the Église Baptiste de la Beauce, so Baptist Church of Beauce. So we bought a car to transport students in the village. The car was important that because you can see, for example, in this community, the red point is the villages where we have indigenous people, and the junior high school is only here in the blue one. So students have to walk 40 kilometers, for example, for the one who live in Simambondo to come here for the school. So the bus is there to help them to come to school and go back to the village. But 2 years later, 4 years later, this is our car. So we need to buy a new one, because this one is no now a solution, but a big problem for us, because we have to repair every time, and the goal is to have a new one and help us to save money. Another thing we do is that in the city of CBT, we build this first housing for indigenous children in the country. So at this place, we receive all indigenous children who need to go to high school and don't have the money, the necessary money to go. So in this place, we feed them for free. They sleep there for free, and we have a lot of program for them to help them with schools. We also build the wells to give water to indigenous community. We found out that in many indigenous community, they need to work a lot of distance to go and try found water. That's why we have a program to build wells in indigenous community. So when we do this thing, the result, I need to talk about the result of what we are doing. As a result, we currently have 500 enrolled children from elementary school to the university. Notice that we start in 2012 by 10 students only, but now we have 500. We have the first 8 indigenous students in the history of the community to attend university. We have also the first 2 indigenous students who have completed vocational training and will soon be working for the government. And it will be the first time in the history of the community to have someone who will work for the government. So it is a very good thing. Sometimes I'm proud to talk about that. So now all school-age children are enrolled, and the parents see the value of education. And I put this on red because it is very important for me. Our students have become fervent defenders of their right in the capital city of the country. Here you can see Paul. His name is Paul. He's indigenous young man. And today in Congo, when the radio or the TV needed to invite indigenous people, be sure that you will see Paul because he's a very great guy and he spent a lot of time talking about the problem. Okay, so after school, indigenous children will face the same challenge as all the other young people in the country. They will be confronted with the problem of employment. If the first to go to university can't find work and return to the village to fish and hunt, it will send a message to the youngest that school is just a waste of time. If that happens, all our years of sacrifice will be wasted. That's why we are looking for funds to launch projects that will give job to indigenous people. So that's why, like to create the job in that community, we are considering launching a chicken farming project to create employment opportunities and put an end to malnutrition. We also wish to launch a swap factory to create employment and promote hygiene within community. We also considering launching sewing training for indigenous women so they can make their own clothes. This is the project I want to start first because as I say it at the beginning, they have not clothes, so we are obliged to pay for that. So the good thing to do is to train them so they can make their own clothes. The last project is in the housing we build. We now have only one and two, yes, and we need to build the second dormitory for them. We should start this year, but we don't have money for that. We still checking and collect it. Yeah. So our recommendation to all things we are talking today is the first to enable indigenous people to access education. As I say, education is the first thing we need to do if we need to achieve every development goals. The second is to create jobs to empower indigenous community. It is important to give them the job so they can be able to do everything in their lives. The third thing is to advocate for the enforcement of all existing laws on the protection of indigenous people. Congo is one of the countries that has put in place several laws to protect the right of indigenous people. Unfortunately, these laws are not enforced. We need to make sure that they are enforced and many change can be made. The fourth point is helping organizations like ours, Espacio Poco, in fundraising effort to develop program. I don't know if everyone here know that since the independence of Africa, development policy have come from the top down. It means that government and international organization bring projects to communities. This policy, I think, has shown its limit because nothing is currently working in a community far from the big city. The gap between rich and poor has never been so big. It's time to change our development policies. It was, I think, Einstein who said that it's madness to do something over and over again and expect a different result. We no need to experiment the change that start by the bottom up, change that is wanted and driven by the community themselves. I want to say that our project has shown results the country has never seen. So give us the means to continue to create the job we need to reach our development goals. So our results are there for all to see. So put your trust in us and give us access to resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Averti, for the excellent presentation, especially your organization role to address young people challenge, indigenous people challenge to eradicate poverty, and specifically the role of education to eradicate poverty and hunger, particularly in the Republic of Congo. And thank you for presenting the holistic intervention you have to address challenge in terms of access to education, clean water, and also you specifically presented about the health challenge you have. So probably we will open the floor for question and discussion. We had third speaker, Yelzan Debe from Namibia. She was planning to present on youth engagement, especially the role of art for youth meaningful engagement. Due to personal reasons, she was unable to join us today, but we hope she will join us on the next conversation. We may have probably next year in person in New York. So I'll open the floor for question and discussion, particularly on the youth employment challenge in Ethiopia and also the intervention in Congo.
I think we are going to open the microphone for everyone.
Sure.
So everyone can ask the question. Feel free, guys. Ask every question you want, and we will come with.
So there is no wrong answer and right answer. So there is a question in the chat box. What are the biggest challenges of young people facing getting involved in achieving the SDG goal in your country? So I can this question, and probably Averti would also address. In terms of one of the biggest challenge, particularly for young people to be involved in addressing the sustainable developmental goal, as particularly lack of platforms that engage young people meaningfully. One of the key challenges, especially in Africa, is a meaningful engagement of young people, especially the last presentation I made about they are not involved in policy development process, implementation, and at the same time monitoring and evaluation of the policy outcomes. So I guess the key challenge is lack of platforms, especially that engage young people. Although we have limited platforms for user representation that are not meaningful, and mostly the platforms on SDG, if I may say, are mostly dominated by adult, which doesn't give an opportunity for young people to meaningfully engage and involve in achieving SDG development in general. And the other thing is like the challenge we have. We had the SDG goal, but at the same time, the policy commitments, the SDG goal commitments are not particularly matched with financial resources as well. I can speak for Ethiopia particularly. When we talk about youth unemployment challenge, we have the policy framework, the national youth policy framework, and we also have like other policy frameworks in general. However, the policy and the framework is there, but it's not matched with financial resource to implement the policy on paper into reality. And at the same time, coordination is a challenge. Coordination between different actors is important to address the SDG challenge. So I hope I addressed your question, and I will come back later after Averti if we have time. Thank you. Over to you, Averti.
Yeah, I want to add something that to be involved, people need to be okay with something. For example, one of the development goal is to finish with the hunger. So it is difficult for someone who have not something to eat to go check food for someone else. So on what we are doing, we are working especially with volunteer people. So many times when we want to do something, they say, okay, we are okay with that, but we didn't eat since this morning. So can we do it tomorrow? If we can have food tomorrow, we will be there. So it is difficult. So the important thing the government need to do is to create job for young people so they can have what they want as foods, as everything, so they can be concentrate on achieving the goals for everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Averti, and I hope we addressed your question. And in general, the challenge of young people are left unaddressed, and that is one of the key challenge actually limiting young people from being involved in SDG and also achieving SDG unless we build the there is any crisis.
Yeah, let me stop.
Yeah,
okay. Yes, you can go.
So unless we build the capacity of young people, it will be difficult to attain the SDG developmental goals. And also, unless we provide a platform for young people to be involved, it will be difficult to attain sustainable developmental goals. We will open the floor once again if you have any question, and at the same time, recommendation, suggestion from your experience as well. I know like some colleagues from Ethiopia has joined as well, so probably you can share your particular experience on youth employment as well, and also from other countries to share your experience, because this is one of the platform to share ideas and also to exchange best practices as well. So the floor is open also to discuss the interventions you had in other countries, which are similar to what we have discussed.
Okay. As we are waiting for the question, I want to say that another problem is that the young people now don't trust government. Because politics are driven by the government, and the young people don't trust the government. Sometimes the government can say, okay, as youth, we want this, and the young people will say, okay, I'm sure that we will not have the good results, so I'm not interested. So I think this can be one of the problem.
Thank you very much, Averti. Thank you very much, Averti. So if we don't have any question, because the last speaker will not join, we have more time, but we can't even conclude the call early. I will ask everyone to open your camera if you are in a good position to have the camera on, so that we can introduce each other, so that we can have a Skype group picture, I mean Zoom group picture with everyone. So I'll start with Precious Laika, who is on the first screen. Awesome. Someone is
Okay.
here.
Marta, we have a question.
Okay, we have.
Ivan is asking a question like, it's a question for me. Averting, what about sexual education? Okay, sexual education. We are some topic we discuss with indigenous people on sexual education, and this last week we had a discussion with them because we receive one indigenous man who come in the city for the hospital. He was very, very sick, and he called us. We accept to receive him, and we bring him to the hospital. Unfortunately, we found that he was very sick, and it is the sexual how to call it, sickness, maladie sexuelle in French. So we start talking to him and try to find what we can do to help them and protect them against against HIV and other things. So we are working now to create this kind of program so we can go and talk to them about sexual education. Yeah.
Probably to share my own experience in terms of sexual and reproductive health, since we also have experience particularly implementing such kind of program. We initiated a program called Mobile for Students Reproductive Health, which is a program that uses mobile technology to provide information on sexual and reproductive health, especially for university students. So on a monthly basis, we send sexual and reproductive health message for young people. This was a project that was initiated a while ago. We concluded the program implementation actually, but we have that particular experience where we provided sexual and reproductive health information for young people using mobile technology, because mobile technology is the most easily accessible resource young people have, especially for university students. So we provided that information where we reached 2,500 young people through the intervention, the Mobile for Students Reproductive Health intervention. And the assessment we conducted actually showed there was increase on sexual and reproductive health information for young people, particularly through that intervention. So we can put our camera on if we don't have any further question, and we can have a group picture. I can see Precious is from Philippines. It's good to see. Evans, I don't know where you are from. And I see another person who is from, I don't know the country, Ibaka. So if you are in a comfortable position to put your camera on, let's have the Ecosoc Zoom picture on Use Lake Solution. All right. I'm about to take a picture. 1, 2, 3. I can see someone from Ethiopia also joined. Thank you everyone for joining this conversation. And I'll give the floor for Averti to conclude, and then I'll come to say a few words as well.
Good morning.
Thank you everyone.
Good morning
for
all.
joining, and let's work together if we can to bring change in our world. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Averti, and everyone from Philippines, from Cameroon, from Ethiopia, from the other part of the globe I didn't mention. I know in some parts of the globe it's evening. For some of you it's morning and afternoon. So thank you for your commitment to join this conversation. I hope we had a very productive discussion. And if you have any recommendation regarding young people, please kindly drop it in the chat box so that we can share it, particularly for the summit for the future as a recommendation from young people. We would like to appreciate everyone for joining this conversation on youth-led solutions. I know technology is a challenge, especially to try to join such kind of conversation, but we would like to appreciate everyone for joining this conversation, and we wish you a good day. Have a productive day.
Yes, we can, sure we can change the world. Yes, we can,
Bye.
sure we can change Africa. It go happen, no. Yes, it go happen, no. It's a world filled with darkness everywhere, but I see the light. Not from the north, the south, the east, or the west, but from within you. Bring it out, let it shine. Bring it